Hi, everybody. Welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Whittle. Well, Barack Obama, in contravention to longstanding political alliances, shared objectives and ideologies, and just common sense, has unilaterally decided to completely realign the American posture in the Middle East. For reasons only truly known in the depths of his narcissistic isolation, he has decided to essentially switch sides, transferring American support from long-standing, primarily Sunni allies such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and of course, Israel, which is not Sunni, and shifting it in a wild gamble to try and align our foreign policy with a nation that declared war on the United States in 1979 and which has been fighting us at every turn ever since, namely Shia-dominated revolutionary Iran. That this is a catastrophic error is self-evident to everyone except for him and his Israeli-hating progressive administration. But it is not only bad for the United States and Israel, it is so destructive to the rest of the Sunni nations that there is serious talk of the formation of a pan-Arab army consisting of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates, coordinating their forces under a unified command structure to combat the threat of an Iran that has American support, real support, as in American air cover. This president, it might be remembered, has had in the recent past U.S. forces fighting not against, but in actual combat support of ISIS, al-Qaeda, and the Iranian Guards. That alone should make one red with shame. That Iran is a mortal threat to Israel and the revolutionary government, at least as constituted, is a perpetual enemy of the United States is immediately obvious to anyone who has the courage to take the Iranians at their word. Now, I know this sort of thing is very quaint. Certainly Barack Obama is far too brilliant a man to do something as pedestrian as actually take the Iranians at their word when they say what they want to destroy Israel and that it's a one-bomb state and so on. But that preening posture on the part of the president makes him pretty much unique among the useful idiots on the world stage today, but not, sadly enough, unique among the useful idiots of recent history, because we've seen this kind of arrogance before and in living human memory. After violating the Treaty of Versailles by marching into the demilitarized Rhineland, rebuilding his Wehrmacht and Luftwaffe, annexing Austria, and taking the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, Adolf Hitler threatened world war over what was left of the Czech nation. Virtually alone, old-school warmonger Winston Churchill told his nation and the world just who and what Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany really were. He, Churchill, had read Hitler's book, you see. And unlike the preening egoist running the British Empire and its foreign policy, he reasonably enough, in my view, took Hitler at his word when he said that his historic mission was to lead Germany to a war of conquest in the East in order to obtain the living space he claimed Germany needed for its national survival and also, parenthetically, to exterminate the Jews. Neville Chamberlain, of course, was far, far smarter than that. He was convinced that his superior intellect and personal charm could get real concessions from Hitler. He returned from a last-minute deal in Munich holding aloft a piece of paper hurriedly signed by Hitler as an annoyance, which Chamberlain claimed represented peace for our time. The peace lasted just long enough for Germany to digest the Czech defenses and armaments before they launched the invasion of Poland. As it turned out, the piece of paper wasn't worth the piece of paper it was printed on. It took 50 million lives for people to wake up enough to take Hitler at his word. Now, you'd like to think that that was an aberration. It wasn't. Just a few years after the Chamberlain debacle in Munich, American President Franklin Roosevelt made precisely the same error for precisely the same reason. Here, too, stood Winston Churchill, who alone among Western leaders apparently had the ability to read, warning that Joseph Stalin was not, in fact, a reasonable man, but rather a murdering tyrant whose entire written history was nothing but the justification for a worldwide Soviet empire. Winston Churchill urged Roosevelt to take Stalin at his word, but FDR was sure that his superior intellect and personal charm could handle Uncle Joe. He told Dwight Eisenhower, who cheerfully agreed, to hold back George Patton's Third Army and the British forces advancing up from the Aegean because he knew that Stalin was a man who could be trusted to be good on his promise for fair and free elections in the countries conquered not by Allied forces on the scene, but by waiting for the Red Army to arrive. When the Iron Curtain of 2 generations of murder and poverty descended, only Winston Churchill, yet again, remained unsurprised. By aligning U.S. foreign policy with Iran, Barack Obama is making the same mistake as Chamberlain and Roosevelt, and for the same reasons, and eventually with the same consequences, because first hubris, then nemesis. What will be the nemesis result of this hubris on the part of Barack Obama? Will it be the 50 million deaths that was the nemesis that Chamberlain didn't live to see? Or the generations condemned to the gulags and death camps in Russia and throughout the entire Soviet empire that was the nemesis that Roosevelt did not live to see? Or will it be a nuclear attack on the one-bomb state of Israel and the dying counterstrike of perhaps 500 nuclear weapons and tens or hundreds of millions of people killed? Which is what the mullahs have consistently called for from the beginning of the revolution. What would the end result be if we wake up enough to take them at their word? Well, no one knows. Because Barack Obama, like Chamberlain and Roosevelt, thinks he knows, while clear-minded realists like Winston Churchill and Benjamin Netanyahu solemnly remind us that when someone says they will enslave or murder us all, we should take them at their word and act accordingly. Time and history are not on our side.